If there's anything that I have learned in my time here is that you have to spend a stupid amount of time alone. If you really want to know what the fuck you are, who the fuck you are, what the fuck you are, you have to spend a lot of time alone. So alone. And I mean like, this doesn't necessarily mean you have to hide in a cave for like for 100, like 10 years away from civilization. It just means that what this could look like in a practical setting is, you work at your goals. You go to your job, do your job, like your 9 to 5. You probably interact with your coworkers there. But when you get home, you you don't hang out with friends. You don't you don't like go out with the boys and have a drink. You work on meaningful goals, shit that means something to you. And it could be, and it's like actually this is actually not that hard, right? You can start literally. I always say like you start with the biggest problems that are staring you right in the fucking face. When you look in the mirror, what are the things that come up? The things that you are just burying, and they're usually on what seem to be surface level problems, right? Like, let's say for myself, I was overweight my whole life. That is a surface level problem in that I wanted to get in shape. Okay. But, or maybe you are not making enough money in your job. Maybe you work at Amazon. You're, in the warehouse and you're fucking sick of carrying heavy boxes around all the time, right? Well, that is a problem. And are you going to just sit there and allow it to continue to be a problem, or are you going to sit there and figure out how to fucking solve it? Right? Those are the gateway drugs into the highest version of yourself. And you're not gonna, you can't bypass those things. You can try, but whatever that's going to be is just going to be a product of ego. And ego is not a bad thing, but left to rule the world, it left untouched or left uh un what's the word I'm looking for? I guess unsupervised. It'll run your fucking life into the ground. So what that means is like you really want to figure out who you are. You need meaningful goals, a meaningful goal, and you need solitude. Solitude, yes. And you need to be, in fact, it's not going to look all nice and peaceful. You're going to be sitting there in your room like I am right now, like I have been for a long time, and being like, holy fuck, it's just me in my room and my fucking laptop and my headphones and my books. And I have my family and the rest of the house, right? But for the most part, this journey of writing online, of getting in shape, running marathons. Like did my runs by myself. I go to the gym, or I strength train by myself. I write by myself. Yeah, sure, sometimes I go to the coffee shop, but I go alone, right? And there are people there, but again, I go alone. And what you will understand fundamentally is that you are not alone. And I don't necessarily mean this in a religious context, like God's with you, but do have my own beliefs around that I don't think it's necessarily tied into a certain religion. But what you do have is what you will know for sure, whether you think it's like God or whatever, is that you have this inner power that is potent. Not only potent, but almost infinite. And you cannot actually reach this place through your mind, through the intellect. You're not going to sit there thinking about it. And you're definitely not going to sit there. You're not definitely not going to find it scrolling TikTok all day. I wish you could. I really fucking wish you could. But you're gonna find it by going to the depths of your soul. And there's a quote by Rumi. I don't know the exact quote, but it's only when you start allowing silence in your mind, silence within, when that is allowed to come out or to come to the light, to become conscious. So that means having to spend stupid amounts of time alone. And I'm not saying you have to do it forever. But I think, and in my opinion, for the full development of every human being, you need to spend an insane amount of time alone. That's my opinion. Then that because that's what I have seen from my experience. So, yeah, and you need to really understand, like, there is not a single person, not a single person is going to fulfill you emotionally. I don't care how much of a perfect fit, how much of a how much I don't even mean this. It goes beyond just simple like romantic relationships. I in platonic friendships as well. There's not a single person who you're going to fully 100% align with. There's not a single person that you're going to meet that's without flaw. Everyone is going to disappoint you, right? And that's not actually an excuse to renounce human relationship. That's not what I'm saying actually. But your your search for this union, this divine or this perfect connection, you're not going to find that in a person. You're not going to find that in anything, really, in no material object. Not your fucking Lamborghini, not your Mercedes. It's going to be like within yourself. And only when you've allowed, and sometimes and the problem is, right, we are in this society where the conditions for allowing this part of yourself to emerge is it's not optimal. Let's just say for that. It's noisy. When you scroll your phone all the time, you induce noise, right? You induce all sorts of bullshit that you used of barriers that you put up inadvertently between you and this deeper part of yourself. And so what you need to do is you need to get rid of all that stuff. And it's going to be way fucking harder than it looks, right? But what you realize is all that stuff, once you away from it for long enough, you start to realize, oh man, that shit was what the fuck was that shit? It didn't actually do anything for me because it never did. But that's just the way kind of life rolls sometimes, is you kind of have to eat a lot of shit or a lot of dark chocolate before you realize it's actually just shit all along, right? That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Like for myself, I started watching porn when I was in like what fucking seventh grade, whacked off a lot, and then I got so sick of it that I just stopped watching porn. Right? I burned off. There's a term for it. You burn off that karma, right? And same with like binge eating. Same with like stress eating. I got so sick and tired of that shit that I just stopped doing it, right? So you can't you can't read a book and be like, oh man, my life has to go like perfectly this way where I never make any mistakes, right? Where I never fall off the perfect path when that is the path. You falling off the path, that is the path, right? That's kind of the illusion is like there is no preset path. The path is already unfolding as you're going. So, moral of the story is spend a lot of time alone. And what I mean really is it's not you're not really spending time alone. You're spending time with yourself, right? And what you realize is that you actually have a greater power, and it's actually impossible to feel alone. And I know that sounds so fucking abstract to a lot of people, but like only when you do it, right? That's the tricky thing with all these sort of like self-improvement, self-development advice, spirituality, or whatever you want to call it. You cannot really get it, right? All of it is just fucking theory, which is helpful, but it's basically in a way, but it's useless to you until you have verified these for yourself experientially. You have to see it for yourself. You have to feel it for yourself viscerally. It's not going to be in here. It's part of it will be in here. It's going to be in here, and you'll know it. You'll literally feel like truths when they make sense to you. But you can only do that when you go through it, right? It's like there's this guy named Stephen Wolfram, and basically there's this thing called like computational irreducibility, where like you can only predict the only way to like you can only predict certain phenomena so much, and that the only way to actually predict them is to actually like I guess, go through them. Like for example, like the weather, you can only predict it through so much, but like you can't it's not really the only way you can actually like figure out what the weather is going to be at the end of the day is to just actually be there and experience the weather as it unfolds, right? You can have an inkling of like, okay, what might happen, but um you cannot like say like, oh, it's gonna rain at exactly like 2:03 or something like that, right? And so life is the same. And all these like deep truths that people talk about, like work hard, play hard, or work smarter, not harder, or whatever, all of them like they basically make no zero fucking sense. Right? It's like when you say a word over and over and over and over and over again, it doesn't make any fucking sense anymore. It's the same, it's a similar phenomenon. And what you have to do is you have to basically like it's like you have an empty closet and you have to hang a bunch of little pieces of truth onto it until you have the big picture, right? Or it's like a Sudoku puzzle. You have to it doesn't make any fucking sense at first, but then towards the end, right? Oh shit, I see something. It all just starts to make sense. So, yeah, that's spend a lot of time alone. Learn to enjoy your own company because that's how you really start to learn what you're actually made out of. And you'll be actually like that's the thing, like you think this is like miserable like all the time. It's fucking awesome, man. And like obviously, yeah, it's hard, but it's fucking awesome. And you really learn to actually like yourself. Like, can you believe that? Like most of us are kind of attuned with like somewhat disliking ourselves. Some of us even fucking hate ourselves. Like, what a fucking existence. Why the fuck would you want to live your life like hating yourself? You know? So, like, I genuinely like, and I'm not in any like way that like I'm enlightened, but I've definitely, I'm starting to really like myself. Like, I love myself. Like, this, like, I would rather not be anybody else, you know? So, yeah, you have to go through those. You have to go through all that stuff first. And there's going to be a lot. And it's your journey. Like I know it's so cheesy. This is another truth that is just not going to make sense until you see it for yourself. Your journey is going to look different from mine. Mine's going to look different from everyone. Even like the mentors and the teachers that you like love and praise and read all their books or whatever, your journey is going to look different from theirs. And you're going to come to these truths, these universal truths in a completely different way than they did, right? There might be some like synchronicities, there might be some like overlap there, but fundamentally it's like your unique path is going to be your unique path. Like there's no other like you are literally one of a kind in the universe. There's no other thing like you. So why expect there to be anything similar, right? So, all right. That's enough rambling.